collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, the frontrunners in the upcoming presidential elections, all of whom have been involved in the unsuccessful attempts to solve the Cyprus problem, are seemingly avoiding any reference to it in their frequent media appearances. And yet there is a detailed proposal drawn up by a bicommunal committee on which none of them have commented in public.
A specific and comprehensive proposal for resolving the Cyprus problem, based on the decisions of the United Nations, the Guterres framework, the European acquis, and the convergences attained to date.
And the Health Ministry fears a spike in cases of Group A streptococcus, the invasive form of which has caused the death of several children in the UK and France. What should parents be looking out for?
Sore throat, high temperature, salivation, maybe the beginning of a rash on the face should alert parents to, first of all, take the kid out of school and then seek help from your pediatrician.
We have elections upcoming in Cyprus, and it's quite extraordinary that the Cyprus problem doesn't seem to feature very highly on the agenda of most of the candidates. Now, the Eastern Mediterranean think tank has put together proposals for how to solve the Cyprus problem. It's a bicommunal initiative, and one of the authors joins us on this week's programme. He is a certified public accountant, Christos Panayotidis. Christos, I think first we need to talk about how the Eastern Mediterranean think tank came about, because how long now have we been talking about solving the Cyprus problem, and we don't seem to have moved forward at all?
I know that it sounds like a joke, a team of 12 people attempting to do what our politicians have failed to do over half a century. But we spend a lot of time thinking about why we have not been able to make much progress in resolving the Cyprus problem. And we have identified a climate of fatalism and pessimism amongst the public, but also fear that an attempt to resolve the Cyprus problem could lead to an arrangement that would be worse than the existing situation. People feel disappointed that the politicians have let us down as a result of either their incompetence or their greediness, or both. This negative climate has led many citizens to distance themselves from the problem because they have concluded that we are in a cul-de-sac which has no escape route.
Well, it certainly doesn't seem at the moment to have an escape route, because in the northern part of Cyprus, things are going on all the time, particularly as far as Varosha goes and as far as the influence of Turkey goes. Now, you did have, I think, several Turkish Cypriots on this committee in the think tank. So what input were they able to give you? Because it seems to me that it's very difficult for both sides to acknowledge the other's truth, if I may put it like that.
Well, this has not been our experience. I think a mistake which many people make is to confuse those in control of the government at a given point in time, either in the north or the south of Cyprus, with the majority of the people, with the silent majority. Our experience has been that a lot of people in the north of Cyprus and the south of Cyprus are very much in favor of reunification. But they just feel frustrated because they don't know what to do in practical terms to bring about the attainment of this goal. This is exactly what has prompted us to form this 12-member bicommunal team consisting of distinguished citizens, and we have formulated and published a specific and comprehensive proposal for resolving the Cyprus problem, based on the decisions of the United Nations, the Guterres framework, the European acquis, and the convergences attained to date. We felt that by coming up with a concrete, specific proposal, we would allay the fears of most people that a solution could place them in a situation that is worse than the position they are finding themselves to be in today.
Now, I know that you have sent this document or links to it to not only the presidential candidates but to a lot of other people as well. What has been the reaction?
Well, this is an interesting question. All those who have gone into the trouble of reading carefully these 40 pages came back to us with two comments. The first one was that I don't have a problem to accept this as the basis of a solution to the Cyprus problem. And the second comment is that we've been surprised by the fact that you were able to pack so much information in 40 pages. Nobody, but literally nobody, came back with specific criticisms or with identifying suggestions which they felt would be unacceptable. And it's very interesting because we had this press conference last Friday, which was attended by all the presidential candidates, all their representatives, because some of them were away outside of Nicosia and even outside of Cyprus, except for Mr. Christou and Mr. Kolokasidis. Everybody else was there. And at the end of the day, they all said complimentary things about our proposal. Without exception, they expressed praise for and applauded our work. And in fact, the representative of Mr. Christodoulidis confirmed that a detailed proposal on the reunification of Cyprus will soon be announced by their team and will be incorporated into the electoral manifesto of the presidential candidate. I simply hope that their proposed detailed plan will incorporate many of the ideas set out in our proposal.
You'll forgive me if I'm a little bit cynical, because you're talking there about one of the candidates who has been involved in these attempts to solve the Cyprus problem and was also one of the people at Crans-Montana when the team walked out. So it's a little bit unusual, should we put it that way, that we could believe that he plans to go back and with a clean slate and an honest heart try and negotiate.
You are absolutely right. And this is exactly why we explicitly asked the journalists and the politicians who were attending last Friday's press conference to promote the involvement of the civil society in a serious and responsible, substantive dialogue on the political future of Cyprus by advancing specific positions and proposals rather than slogans and cries that are designed to keep their audiences happy and are susceptible to multiple interpretation. Obviously, we have no way of forcing them to comply with our suggestion. But this is a mistake we have made in the past. We kept the people out of the process until the very last moment, when for them it was impossible to digest what was being suggested, and they ended up blindly voting for or against, which is something we don't want to see repeated now.
OK, but I have to say, Christos, as you know, I was present at that press conference. It was very poorly attended, and I sort of felt it was an insult to all of you on the panel that the people who were in Cyprus, who are standing for the presidency, did not attend themselves. Because as a journalist, I had several questions I wanted to put to them, but I knew that the answers would not be forthcoming from their representatives, as you call them.
Well, it depends how you measure attendance, because, as I said, the press conference was not addressed to the public at large. It was exclusively addressed to the candidates and the press. Now, we've been given fair publicity in the newspapers. We were amongst the main news items on RIK in the evening of Friday.
Christos, that's the only TV station that bothered to show up.
Correct, but I cannot speak on their behalf. Perhaps you should ask them why they failed to turn up. It could be that they have reasons for wanting to keep action steps such as ours out of the public view. I don't know.
Well, I think you've probably just hit the nail on the head, although you're trying to be very diplomatic. I don't have to be diplomatic. And as I say, I thought it was insulting that the main candidates who were in the country didn't reschedule to join your meeting, because like the lack of presence of the press, I thought that that was a way of saying that there are an awful lot of people here with possibly vested interests in not taking on board these very sensible suggestions that the think tank has made.
I think there is a logical explanation as to why the presidential candidates are avoiding the issue. It's not because people don't care about their future and the future of their children and grandchildren. It's because they are afraid that if they go into the details of how they intend to go about handling this problem, it's more likely that they will lose rather than gain votes. So they just stay at the level of talking about the issue in general terms, so that they will have more flexibility at the end of the day as to what they could do and what they cannot do.
Or what they don't want to do.
Exactly. And this is unacceptable. And this is what we are trying to have an influence on. But we are a team of 12 people, okay. Many of our members, most of our members are distinguished citizens, such as Takis Dimitriou, Leontios Ieroδιakonu, Serdar Atai, Androula Vasiliou, Lakis Zavalis. Okay, they are people well known. They are not currently involved in party activities. And this is what we feel needs to be done. As I said, we came up with a concrete, specific proposal, and we challenged everybody involved in this process to come up with an answer to the following three questions. What is it that you do not like in this proposal? Why don't you like it? And what is your realistic alternative proposal? Nobody has responded to these three questions. And it's tragic, because I was looking this morning at the statistics produced by Google on how many hits we end up having on our site. And the hits in the United States, for example, it's about 50% of what they are in Cyprus. And the hits in Russia, they are not very far behind. The number of hits in Turkey, although I must admit that probably the hits in the northern part of Cyprus are counted as Turkey, but they were also very substantial. Now, why the Cypriots are not investing the effort to look into this problem, I've given you an explanation at the beginning of our discussion. I think it's correct, but I'm not sure.
So what happens next? Because while it is off the table in a sense in terms of the campaigning for the upcoming presidential elections, then it's not really featuring in anybody's policy statements anyway.
Well, Rosie, what I found amazing was the ease, because we have to invest a lot of time talking and explaining to the European Commission, for example, our proposals, the ease with which they came out formally and they've applauded what we're doing. We publicized the letter we received from them, and it leaves little room for doubt. The letter, which is signed by the President and the two Vice Presidents of the European Commission, refers to the great value of the initiative of the think tank and to the thought and effort that we have expended on arriving at such detailed proposals, to conclude that they are ready to support and accompany the process in as constructive a manner as possible. These are their words. Now, we were pleasantly surprised with how much support we got, and we were also surprised by how much effort they've invested to study our proposals in detail. And this is the way to go about it.
Christos, I have to interrupt you there. Have you had any response whatsoever from any of the presidential candidates? You've asked them to say if they've read it and what they don't like. Has anybody replied?
You want me to give you an honest answer?
Of course I do.
Okay, here it is. A few of them, but I'm not going to name them, they told us that they like very much our proposal, but they don't have the guts to come out and say so in public. And they said it's a good thing that you've come up with this proposal, because you can speak a language which we're unable or unwilling to speak.
All right, well, I have to leave it there, I think, but it does seem to me that if they aren't honest enough to say that if I'm elected, I will or I will not do such and such, particularly with regard to our national problem, 50 years and counting, it's extraordinary to me, and it smacks of dishonesty.
What can I say? I could say that I'm inclined to agree with you, because I'm an honest, straightforward accountant. But what can we do beyond what we're doing, Rosie?
No, probably nothing, Christos, but let's see whether or not our chat engenders a few more people bothering to go to eastmed-cyprus.org thinktank.com, and I know that the document is in Greek and Turkish and I think in English?
Yes, in all three, all our documents are in those three languages.
So that's eastmed-thinktank.com if you would like to see what the proposals are for a logical, sensible solution to the Cyprus problem. We've been talking to one of the authors of that report, Christos Panayotidis, a certified public accountant. Christos, the very best of luck with your endeavours.
And let me just add that we welcome feedback. We welcome critical comments. We are not claiming that what we've come up with is the absolute truth. But we need to do something about it, because if we carry on just watching from a distance, we will soon reach a stage which will be beyond repair.
It's about to get there, I think, with the upcoming elections for the mayor of Varosha, isn't it? So we'll have to watch what's going on with a great deal of care. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
The Health Ministry said earlier this week that strep tests would be handed out to paediatricians across the island. They're worried that the outbreak of Streptococcus A, which has been seen particularly in the UK and now I think in France, could reach the island, especially with people travelling over for the Christmas holidays. Streptococcus is something that I think most parents have come across at one time or another, but the death of several children in the UK has raised alarm bells. So I've asked Nicosia paediatrician Paris Iacovidis to join us and tell us how worried we should be, but more importantly, what we should be looking out for. Paris, it's around all the time everywhere, isn't it, strep?
It's correct. And there are various types of strep. So we have this throat being infected, which is a very common site for infection, called strep pneumoniae. But we also have the strep pyogenes, group A strep, and this is what seems to be causing the majority of problems in the UK. Now, group A strep usually causes scarlet fever. So scarlet fever is a throat infection caused by group A strep, and that usually causes a sore throat and a pinkish rash, which starts on the face, on the trunk, mainly on the torso, under the armpits, and around the underwear area. Okay, and this is the mild form of this strep. So this is very easily recognized by the pediatricians, and it's cured very quickly and very easily and very effectively with antibiotics. Very few side effects of this strep, can cause kidney problems. It may cause complications in the kidneys 3 to 4 weeks after the initial event. It can affect the joints, sometimes causes mild arthralgia, and in predisposed individuals who have congenital heart disease may cause problems in the heart. But this is very, very few, small proportion of these infections causing these complications. So by and large, group A strep in the throat causes a mild disease called scarlet fever. Now, the deaths in the UK have occurred because occasionally, and very, very rarely, it's about 1 every 100,000 population, this group A strep may migrate for reasons that we don't really fully understand now, and can end up going into places that it shouldn't go, like into the fluid around the brain. It can go into the pleural space, which is space surrounding the lungs, and also it can end up going into the bloodstream. When this happens, then group A strep is then called invasive group A strep, or IGAS. You may see it written down as IGAS. So this invasive group A strep, then can cause serious illness and even death. And this is the complication that they're dealing with in the UK. It's a very, very rare complication. Like I said, it's about 1 per 100,000 of population. So it's a very rare event.
Can I ask you about these strep tests that the ministry says it's rolling out? Because, as I say, I think all parents have come across strep throat and tonsillitis and similar things, and I don't remember a test ever being done on my kids. The doctor just tended to look at their throat and know immediately. So what's special about these tests?
Well, the test can pick up if there's present group A strep in the throat. Now, usually we don't use the strep test when it comes to scarlet fever, because the rash of scarlet fever is very obvious to us, and we can easily diagnose the strep by the rash. Now, in cases that you're not sure, you see a sore throat and a tonsillitis, you're not sure if this is strep or something else, then you may use the strep test as a confirmation. But if the strep test becomes positive, it doesn't mean that individual who has the strep in his throat will suffer this serious complication. Like I said, we still don't know why in certain individuals this strep migrates from the throat into the bloodstream, causing this multi-organ failure, which obviously is a very nasty disease, very aggressive, very fast progressing disease. It needs certainly immediate hospitalization and maybe intensive care. So basically the strep tests are there in borderline cases to exclude the presence of strep in the throat.
Very quickly, because I have to wrap this up, Paris, we're running short of time. Can you just run us through the use of antibiotics in this case? I know, and you know, that most paediatricians avoid using antibiotics if at all possible. And of course, we've got increasing numbers of people who are antibiotic resistant now. So how far, when you're diagnosing and treating a child with something like this, have you got to take that into consideration?
Well, group A strep in the throat, this is probably one of the few cases that you have to immediately prescribe antibiotics. So everyone who's got illness and a temperature attributed to group A strep in his throat, then will have to receive antibiotics. Now, the problem with antibiotic resistance, yes, I agree with you, we have more antibiotic resistance in Cyprus than in the UK, due to the overprescribing of antibiotics in the last few decades actually. But fortunately, group A strep remains highly sensitive to the standard antibiotics that we use in our practices in Cyprus. So it's good news that we don't have a problem with the resistance. If you do have a problem with the resistant group A strep, then you do cultures from the throat, and then you change your antibiotic according to the results of your cultures. But like I said, fortunately, we don't have a huge problem with antibiotic resistance for group A strep, so it's very easily and effectively treated at the beginning.
And just finally, we should, I think, tell people that they need to keep an eye open for their kids if there is any sign of them going off their food, having a temperature or whatever. And of course, this is contagious, isn't it? So if your kid's looking like that, don't send them to school.
Absolutely. So combination of a sore throat, high temperature, salivation, maybe the beginning of a rash on the face should alert parents to, first of all, take the kid out of school and then seek help from your pediatrician.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Dr. Paris Iagovidis telling us about the strep tests, and indeed no need to worry unnecessarily, but certainly keep your eyes open. Paris, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.